What's up, sports fans? This is the NCAA College Sports Channel. It is time to give you the top 10 official college football bowl games heading into the full swing of the postseason of the 2025-26 college football season. And yes, bowl season is here, but it's also the 12-team playoff. We do have still a ton of bowl games coming up, but bowl games, again, don't really matter as much as they used to. But anyways, I'm going to give you the 10 bowl games that I think could be pretty exciting, but really the difference about these bowl games, pretty much from a perspective standpoint, is that, these bowl games don't really matter. Again, they don't really matter as much as they used to. You have a ton of players that opt out, go to the transfer portal, and then you got players that, they don't really play in these bowl games. They just sit out and just kind of, take a step back. So what about the bowl games for this year in 2025? Well, it's a lot different. You got a ton of teams that also opted out. For example, Notre Dame. It's not really just the players that have opted out. It's not really just about the transfer portal. It's about the teams that opted out as well. Notre Dame opted out to not play a bowl game, and then there were several teams that didn't get the 6 wins that opted out as well. So that's really just an interesting storyline there, but I'm going to give you the top 10 bowl games here, in my opinion, and we'll go from the bottom and work our way to the top. So we'll start here with number 10, and that is the LA Bowl, Boise State and Washington. This will be the first ever bowl game, coming up on bowl season. This one is on Saturday, December the 13th. So yeah, that's coming up this weekend, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Washington's favored by 8.5 in this one. That's a very high number for a bowl game, between these two teams, and it will be on ABC. Boise State's coming off the Mountain West Championship. Washington was a quietly sneaky good 8-4 team in the Big Ten. They were actually a team that, probably had a shot to make the playoff this year, but they did kind of, the loss to Wisconsin definitely did hurt them, and yeah, they turned out to just be a pretty solid and decent team overall. So yeah, I think this will be a pretty good matchup, and, Boise State just, completed, their final year of the Mountain West. They will be playing in the new Pac-12 next year. It's not really typically a Power 5 conference anymore, but it is an opportunity to, step up the competition. So yeah, Boise State, again, their final game as a Mountain West team. We'll see if they can, end it on a good note. They've been the best program in the conference over the, few generations that they've been there. But yeah, this is number 10 here on my list, the LA Bowl, Boise State and Washington, again on Saturday, December the 13th. And it is one of the first bowl games that will be played throughout this entire bowl season. Moving on to number 9, that's the Pinstripe Bowl, December the 27th on Saturday at noon Eastern time. It's Penn State versus Clemson. Clemson is favored by 3.5 in this one. So you got the two most disappointing teams going at it here in a bowl game. I talked about these two teams yesterday in the top 10 disappointing teams video. These were the two most disappointing teams in all of college football, and look what's happened. They're playing in a bowl game against each other. Penn State was 6-6. Clemson was 7-5. I think Penn State was definitely more disappointing than Clemson, but if you're going by performance and everything, I think Clemson was probably even worse than Penn State. But yeah, they were both pretty similar, and I haven't really watched these teams a lot this year, especially after their downfall. Yeah, I'm not too surprised that Clemson is favored, but you look at Penn State, they hired Matt Campbell as the new head coach. That's obviously a big story for next year, and it's really also about the future in these bowl games. Forgot to mention that as well. It's not really about the current players that are playing. I mean, I understand there's a ton of, players that opted out already, so I'm not going to get into that very much, but you're also looking ahead to the future. So it's really about the future here between these two teams. Again, Clemson, was a disappointment for sure, and then so was Penn State, but I think Penn State definitely has the brighter future than Clemson does, especially with Matt Campbell coming over. But yeah, this game, again, will be on December the 27th at noon Eastern time, and it's number 9 here on this list. Moving on to number 8, that's the Alamo Bowl, USC and TCU. This one is on a Tuesday night, December the 30th at 9 o'clock Eastern time. USC is favored by 6.5 in this one. And it will be on ESPN. USC, number 16th ranked in the college football playoff rankings. They're 9-3. They were quietly a sneaky good 9-3 team in the Big Ten. Had a much better year compared to last year. TCU is also a sneaky good team in the Big 12. These were two sneaky good teams, and both respectively in their conferences. And yeah, TCU again wasn't a contender in the Big 12, but they were just sneaky good. Let's just put it that way. And then USC, they pulled off some good wins this year, but had some very tough losses down the stretch. So I think this is a pretty good matchup here for both of these teams. I think USC might have a slight talent advantage, but TCU could pull off a pretty big upset here. So, yeah, the Alamo Bowl, this one is on December the 30th on Tuesday night, the night before New Year's Eve at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and it's number 8 here on this list. Moving on to number 7, the Sun Bowl, Arizona State and Duke. This one is at 2 o'clock Eastern Time on that Wednesday, December the 31st on New Year's Eve. Duke is favored by half a point, and this one will be on CBS. You got Duke coming off of that ACC championship win. You got the Sun Devils that took a big step back from where they were last year. Arizona State was a team that made it to the playoff last season, and they took definitely a big step back. They did lose Sam Levitt, in the middle of the season due to an injury, and now you got Duke coming in here with 5 losses. Yes, this is a Duke team that won the ACC title, and it just goes to show you how bad the ACC was this year. And yeah, I'm not really taking that Duke was the top team in the conference. I think Miami was probably the top team besides Duke. I mean, I know Duke won the ACC title, but there were a lot of other good teams besides Duke in that conference that could have won the ACC title. And look, I don't have a lot of disrespect here for Duke, but I just think they still should not have been in the ACC championship, and it's really just no reason for them to win it this year. But still, again, this should be a pretty good matchup. Both teams I think are pretty even. I mean, I would probably give the defensive advantage to Duke just because of Manny Diaz's defensive background, but Arizona State, without Sam Levitt, this just has not been the same team, ever since he went down with the injury. But still, this looks like a pretty even matchup, and it will be on December the 31st. That is the Sun Belt Bowl number 7 on this list. Moving on to number 6, Virginia and Missouri. This one is on December the 27th at 7:30 Eastern Time. It will be on ABC. Missouri favored by 7. That's a pretty big number there. This is the Gator Bowl, so the tax layer Gator Bowl. Virginia, again, coming off that ACC championship loss. I just talked about them losing to Duke. You could tell that Virginia was definitely the most surprised team in the ACC this year. They were kind of controlling the conference there down the stretch, but then they did lose to Duke in the ACC title game. That was a game that they should have won, and if they would have won that game, they would have been in the college football playoff. So disappointing end to the season there for Virginia. And then you look at Missouri. They've been an up and down team this year. Bo Burbill has been pretty impressive though for this Missouri team. He did go down with the injury, but he came back in the Oklahoma game, and he showed off that toughness. And Missouri's a team that can run the football pretty well. So yeah, this Missouri team might have the talent advantage, but this looks like it should be a pretty good matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia did win this game, but at the same time, Missouri, I think they definitely have a slightly more talented roster if we're going by roster wise, but still, the opt-outs could come into play here for both of these teams. But yeah, the Gator Bowl, number 6 here on this list, and it is at 7:30 Eastern Time on December the 27th. And now we get into the top 5. This is where I think the top 5 bowl games belong on this list. We got the Holiday Bowl, that's Arizona and SMU. This is on Friday, January the 2nd, so the day after New Year's Day, 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox. Arizona's favored by 3.5 in this one. This is also like a pretty even matchup. You got Arizona that's been a very big surprise team this year. SMU had also a pretty big step back from where they were last year. This is kind of similar to, the Duke and, the Duke and Arizona State game, but still, it's not really that similar. I mean, SMU just took a big step back from where they were last year after making it to the ACC championship, and then also the college football playoff. Arizona had a disappointing year last year. This year, they've been a lot better. So they're 9 9-win team, a chance to get to 10 wins to close out this 2025 season. But SMU might have a talent advantage in this one. I mean, I don't want to say they have a talent advantage. I think it's both pretty even here between these two teams. But Kevin Jennings, if he plays, he definitely has a lot more experience, and I kind of trust him a little bit more. I don't know if Noah Fafia got injured or not. I'd have to go back and see what the injuries look like there for the Arizona Wildcats. But yeah, the Holiday Bowl, it does land here on number 5 on this list. Moving on to number 4, that's the ReliaQuest Bowl. Iowa versus Vanderbilt at noon Eastern time on New Year's Day, December the 31st, or New Year's Eve, I should say. This is on ESPN. Vanderbilt is favored by 4. You got a top 25 matchup here in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Vanderbilt was a surprise team for sure. They won 10 games this year, and I think it really was a big reason for Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia has made this Vanderbilt football program really just on the map again, and they were a contender in the SEC, and then also a team that came close to making it to the college football playoff. Now the question is Vanderbilt going to have Diego Pavia for this game? I mean, I think there is a 100% chance that he plays just to close out his Vanderbilt career on a really good note. But besides that, Vanderbilt's going to have a good quarterback in the future coming up, so with him gone, I still think Vanderbilt will be a pretty good team. You look at Iowa, they were a sneaky 8-4 team as well in the Big Ten this year. I mean, they got a good defense, but their offense is kind of much better than it used to be. So yeah, this looks like a pretty even matchup. I mean, I think Iowa has the better defense, but Vanderbilt's just got that mentality. They really have the mentality to win this game, in my opinion. So the ReliaQuest Bowl lands here at number 4 on this list for a reason. Moving on to number 3, that's the Music City Bowl. Tennessee and Illinois. This one will be at 5:30 Eastern time on Tuesday, December the 30th. Tennessee is favored by 5.5 in this one, and it will be on ESPN. Tennessee in Nashville, it's basically like a home game for them. I mean, the Vols will be definitely favored here, but you look at this Illinois team, pretty similar to Tennessee, a quiet 8-4 team that took a 2-game step back from where they were last year. In fact, both of these teams actually took a 2-game step back. Tennessee made the playoff, while Illinois was just a surprise team, and they won 10 games last year. So yeah, these two teams are pretty similar, but Tennessee went to the playoff last year and Illinois did not. And you got two quarterbacks that definitely have a ton of experience, but the question is, which quarterback is going to be able to play? Are they going to both play, or is Joey Aguilar going to declare for the NFL draft? That's obviously a big question mark. And by the way, Tennessee did fire Tim Banks as the defensive coordinator, so maybe that's like a big storyline going into this game, but still, Tennessee just, took a 2-game step back. Their defense was not as good as we thought it was going to be. And then their offense, has been up and down as of late. And then Illinois has just been an up and down team as well. So, yeah, this looks like a pretty even matchup. Music City Bowl, I feel like there will be more Tennessee fans there since it is in Nashville. But still, this one should be a pretty exciting matchup on December the 30th at 5:30 Eastern Time in the Music City Bowl. Moving on to number 2, one of my favorite bowls of this new generation of college football. It's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Georgia Tech versus BYU, December the 27th at 3:30 Eastern Time. BYU is favored by 3. BYU coming in after losing to Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. Do we feel like they got snubbed from the college football playoff after getting blown out by Texas Tech? I mean, I don't want to really go into that, but BYU definitely looked like they kind of deserved to make it to the playoff, but at the same time, maybe they didn't. And then you look at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was the top team in the ACC for the most part in the entire season. This team was like 8-0, and then they lost like 3 games down the stretch in the month of November. So yeah, it was a tough year for Georgia Tech, and it was also kind of a tough 2 games against Texas Tech for BYU. So both of these teams kind of pretty similar. The question is for Georgia Tech though, is Haynes King going to be playing in this game? That's obviously the big question mark because you don't really know who's opting out in these bowl games. But yeah, the Pop-Tarts Bowl is one of my new favorite generation bowl games this college football world. I do love this bowl game, and I like Pop-Tarts for that reason. So yeah, the winner of this game receives a giant Pop-Tart, and they eat it after the game. So that's really the exciting part about this bowl game. It may seem silly, but I really like this, bowl game in my opinion. So this is on December the 27th at 3:30 Eastern Time, and then number 1, it has to be the Citrus Bowl, and that's also the Cheez-It Bowl. Michigan versus Texas, 3 o'clock Eastern Time on December the 31st on on New Year's Eve. These two teams 9-3. Texas is favored by 5.5, and it wasn't that long ago that these two teams met in a regular season game last year, and Texas dominated. That's when Quinn Ewers was still around, and Texas did make it to the 12-team playoff while Michigan didn't. But yeah, Michigan and Texas, they both missed the playoff this year. I'm not too surprised that Michigan missed it, but I'm also kind of surprised about Texas missing it. This was actually the team that I picked to win the national championship. Yeah, it was a disappointing year, but it wasn't really that disappointing for Texas. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. They could have been like, right there where Penn State and, Clemson were, like about 6-6 or 7-5, maybe also 8-4, but they did finish the season pretty strong. Picked up a couple of big wins on the way against Oklahoma and Texas A&M. I don't know if Arch Manning is playing in this game. I don't know if he's staying another year. I honestly don't know who's opting out in this game between these two teams, but I know Bryce Underwood will play since he's just a freshman, and yeah, we'll see what the future looks like for Bryce Underwood in this game as well. It was an up and down freshman year for Michigan, for him, but still, either way, I think this is the biggest bowl game coming up. These are two 9-3 teams and two historic programs in college football, and for that reason, this landed number one here on this top 10 list. So those are the top 10 bowl games, in my opinion, heading into the entire postseason of this 2025-26 season. Do you guys agree or disagree with this list? And give me your top 10 bowl games down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more on the NCAA College Sports YouTube channel.